Hello. In no less than 3 dramas this year, the stories have started with injured male leads. And these injuries aren't just quickly healed, which is what magically usually happens in Dramaland. They incapacitate the hero for almost a third of the drama. It doesn't mean that the hero can't do other things like thinking up clever plans or investigating a murder. However, it does create a handicap that we are simply not used to seeing drama male leads have, especially not for a prolonged period of time. The dramas I'm talking about are Pursuit of Jade, Zhan Zhao Adventures, and the currently airing First Jasmine. I strongly believe that all of these stories were improved by having a male lead who wasn't at the heights of his martial prowess at the start of the story. But before I talk about how this ends up improving the storylines, I want to underline that at least for First Jasmine, I'm talking about a hero with a physical disability that he has lived with for many years, I think 8 years at the start of the drama. And it is, by the middle of the drama, spoilers, miraculously cured by the female lead's amazing medical skills. And this ableism is an extremely predictable part of any rom-com. However, I do want to point out that it's possible to have dramas that treat disability as not something that needs to be solved. I went kind of feral for Will Love in Spring, and I will absolutely 100% always recommend going and watching that, and then come and watch my video. This is such a good drama. So it is possible to do dramas like these. It is just not very common. Now, coming back to dramas where disability still is something that needs to be solved by the end of the story, an injured male lead seems to help the plot in several ways. Let's first talk about Pursuit of Jade. Zhang Zhao's character spends something around the first 15 episodes repeatedly injured to the point where if it was not for the female lead's determination to save him, especially in the initial episodes where he was in no condition to send for help, he would definitely have died. To have your hero start the drama with that level of injury does 2 things to my mind. First is that it allows the female lead to show her competence, her survival skills, her ability to negotiate, her ability to keep the male lead alive without putting the audience in a where is the Avengers mindset. You know how in interconnected superhero movies, if you watch them, Spider-Man alone is trying to save the world. And you're like, isn't there like a whole Avengers team? Why is no one turning up? Are all of them busy right at that moment? Like, why are they just standing by and watching this one lone hero tackle this entire problem? You have a similar situation in romance dramas where because the male lead's character is usually already competent from the get-go. Now, this didn't used to happen before, but this has kind of become the norm in recent years. Male leads are just competent from the get-go. Like, if they haven't reached the peak of their career or whatever it is that they're trying to do, their inherent competency and efficiency is already at the highest level. They just haven't reached their goals yet. So that puts the audience in mind of why is the female lead struggling alone and the male lead not helping? Why is she struggling alone when he can see that bad stuff is happening? Like, is that the kind of person he is? Usually what dramas do, think of something like Prisoner of Beauty, is that when the male lead can see that the female lead is struggling, either he is the cause of her struggles or he has a reason to be hostile towards her or ignore her. In the very recent My Royal Nemesis, you have the male lead again trying to ignore the plight of the female lead for like 2 episodes. Because he's like, this is not my responsibility, and also she might be a scam artist. They are usually put in opposition to each other, and there is at least a mild amount of hostility between them, which justifies any inaction by the male lead. But if you use the injury trope, then almost right off the bat, you can have the dynamic that we have in Pursuit of Jade, where yes, he doesn't immediately trust her, but it is very easy for him to start liking her and definitely respect her when he sees how hard she's working to help him survive. Now, once you take out this entire hostile dynamic with the main lead and you don't have to worry about why he is being an ass for no plausible reason, you can really focus on how competent the female lead is, because it is no longer about why is the male lead not helping her. It's about, well, the male lead actually needs her help, and she provides that help. Both in Pursuit of Jade and in Zhan Zhao Adventures, you can see the female protagonists just be a good person, someone who is intelligent and can get things done, and you can just appreciate that. How nice is that? The other thing that happens, of course, is the male lead, who is usually a complete, well sorted out, fully developed person at the very start of the drama. He gets an internal struggle, because all of the struggle that you see the male lead deal with in these dramas are external. Someone killed his family, he needs to go avenging. That actually is like 9 out of 10 times the only plot. Even in Zhan Zhao Adventures, someone killed his best friend and he needs to go avenging. He actually needs to run away first, because people immediately try to kill him, but then he needs to go avenging. You have the same situation in First Jasmine. His family was betrayed, his brother and soldiers of their army were unfairly given the death sentence, and now he's out for revenge. That's an external obstacle. That's something that he needs to deal with, but it is, a plan that needs execution and needs solving in the outside world. Internally, the emotional arc for most male leads is that they have rage and trust issues to get over, and by the end of the drama, they do. Again, these are in response to things that are happening outside. However, like I said, drama starts with them already having great martial prowess. So, what kind of internal conflict can you create where they not only have to survive an environment or situation that they don't usually have to deal with, but it also kind of makes them understand things about themselves that they would otherwise not have had to deal with? You give them an injury that is not easily magicked away. They're not just fine by the next day. In Zhan Zhao Adventures, the male lead in the very first episode, he is really, really badly injured. And when the female protagonist, I'm calling her protagonist and not female lead, because this is kind of like a drama where there are 3 leads, and this is not exactly a romance-focused drama. So when she finds him, she first doesn't know who he is. He is a very famous hero of the martial world. But within a short period of time, she does realize that he is really badly injured. But the interesting thing is, he shows signs of very specific types of injury, which could have only been dealt by very specific clans in the martial world. And those clans have opposite reputations. One of them has the most sterling reputation, does nothing wrong ever. So if they have hurt you, you must be the bad guy. On the other hand, the other clan that seems to have injured him has the worst reputation. They are never to be trusted. They always do bad things. If they have hurt you, you must be a good guy. So it creates a situation where she doesn't know if she can trust this guy, because why would these 2 clans have hurt him? And he's reluctant to reveal his identity. So instead of basing her opinion of him on any great feats that he has accomplished, she ends up slowly starting to trust him because of small actions of self-sacrifice and clear evidence of goodness that she sees in the time that she spends with him, which is a far better foundation for a friendship than, oh my God, you have such great martial prowess, be my bestie. And the other plot line, which I just found so adorable, is that he has a rival whom he doesn't consider a rival, but the rival is like, no, I am totally your rival. But the rival arrives and sees that he's injured and realizes he can only be saved because he's dying from the combination of injuries. He can only be saved by a very specific family that this rival person has some connection to and bad history with. But he takes our male lead there and kind of forces the family to treat him. And he does all of this because he really wants to fight our male lead, or so he says. But we quickly realize it's because he's a good person and he has a lot of respect for our male lead, and he just wants to be friends. Okay, it's really cute. But it kind of shows both the character of the man and also the character of the injured hero, because how good a person must he be that this guy is willing to go so far for him? In the case of Zhan Zhao Adventures, it doesn't really improve his internal arc much because our man is just perfect. He's perfect. He has no real internal struggle. But it does force him to use his intelligence to outsmart the people who are pursuing him, because a multitude of people are pursuing him. He's repeatedly put in positions where usually he'd be able to kind of hi-ya his way out of a problem. But instead, he has to work the human side, ask for help, collaborate with others, and very often just outsmart them. Coming back to Pursuit of Jade, I really enjoyed how the injury put our male lead in a situation where he has to adjust to things that he never had to deal with because he comes from a pretty affluent family. Like, even on army rations, his needs are prioritized because he's a general. Whereas when he's staying with the female lead and she is his savior, he has to eat what she eats, what she can actually afford. If her family wears like raggedy clothes, he has to wear raggedy clothes. He has to be okay with the fact that he's basically living right next to a pigsty. The drama does a pretty decent job of showing that the main lead is not fully okay with all of this stuff, but he's adjusting to it quickly. And he would never have had to do that if he hadn't been severely injured. And now moving on to First Jasmine, you have a proper physical disability here. This is a princely household where a lot of changes have been made in the environment so that this one man can get around. His legs were severely injured during a battle, and after that, instead of being treated, he was put in jail by his own monarchs, which meant that his injury went untreated for months as he just barely survived in prison. By the time he was pardoned and allowed to go back to his life, his legs did not work. And over the years, many doctors have looked at his legs and none could give him hope. Until the female lead arrives with her magical medical skills. And there is, of course, a reason why she could save his legs where nobody else could. Plot convenient reasons, which is fine. That's how these dramas usually do things. There are certain conversations in this drama, though, that made me go a bit, ooh, no, that's not good. Where the female lead is persuading him to let her treat his legs, and he is extremely reluctant. And that's his right. Yeah, like he gets to decide whether or not he's going to get treated by his loving wife. Part of it is the language that she uses. She tells him that he was such a strong man. He's such a strong warrior. She had met him when she was a teenager. He had saved her life. And she wants to see him like that again. I feel like that is a horrible thing to say. And even though the drama gives her a credible excuse for why she is so extreme in pushing him to get the treatment, the excuse being that his dying older brother had made her promise that she would help his younger brother. And the vow that she had made some 8 years ago has by now become one of the primary missions of her life. It's one of the driving forces that is still keeping her going. So yeah, it's you can kind of like your way through some of those scenes. But anyway, the injury itself is really interesting because it creates a situation where he is perceived to be extremely vulnerable, even though he is plotting his revenge and putting things in motion. It's not like he has actually given into his injury and decided to do nothing. That's like the perception that the world has of him. However, it has also made him someone who is able to and is willing to use his environment and use his other resources to get the revenge that he wants. And that state of mind is obviously really hard won, and I find that admirable. It doesn't mean, though, that he doesn't have resentment towards his own body. He does. He used to be a great warrior. He isn't completely chill with, like, not being that anymore. A crucial part of his identity was stripped away when he could no longer walk. The fact that he has to depend on an aid to get around most spaces, like he has. By the way, this is something I really like about First Jasmine, which is that they added details to his daily life that makes perfect sense for someone who has to get around and can't walk. I don't think most dramas even think of details like this. For instance, there are these rings attached to chains from the ceiling that he holds when he is getting up from his wheelchair to get on his bed. His wheelchair is really interesting. I have seen very old designs of wheelchair, like very early wheelchairs, and of course they were insanely heavy, and this thing also looks extremely heavy, but this is the unrealistic part. It makes no sound. It's so smooth. Regardless, it is clearly a very heavy chair. He can move himself around, but if he has to go up or down an incline, if he has to go longer distances, he has his aid help him. They also don't make the curing process something that happens overnight. It spans several episodes and it is quite a painful process. But at the end of the day, he is pretty much completely normal. Something else that I really liked with the injury plotline is how it made the male lead more patient and accepting of certain things about the female lead. So Bailu's character in this drama is really interesting to me. So far, like, if this drama really lands the ending, I'll make a video talking about it. But the part that I love is that he has a physical disability. She most definitely has some kind of trauma-induced psychological problem. Because on the one hand, she is extremely brilliant. She is plotting assassinations while, like, knitting a robe. And the hilarious thing is, her husband is plotting the assassination of the same person, but with the help of, like, so many soldiers, and they're looking at maps and routes and all of that stuff. And then her plan goes amazingly smoothly while the main lead and his many soldiers are like, what the heck just happened? Who took out this guy? So she's brilliant. But slowly the drama reveals, like, to us, the audience, it's very clear from early on, but to the other characters, it's slowly revealed that while there are certain lies that she tells deliberately, there are certain lies that she seems to believe to be able to function. And those lies, as they become revealed, and because the male lead is married to her and is sort of like seeing her around the household on a daily basis, he starts noticing those things pretty early on. You see that from his perspective, yes, he has a disability and she is doing so much for him, for his family and everything. But on the other hand, he also has an opportunity to help her, be kind to her, give her the love and attention she needs, because he has seen the breaks in her psyche. And he's also realized that she doesn't know that they're there. So he's quietly trying to help her in the way she has been trying to help him. And this entire plot line is more poignant because he's doing all of this while he is dealing with his own disability. Because if he had been the warrior spoiling for a fight when she had married into his family, they would have had to manufacture other conflicts. It is very likely that he would have paid a lot less attention to every single thing that she was saying and doing in his house, which he does in this situation because he can hardly believe that she is true in her affections and her intentions despite the way he is. Anyway, so those are 3 dramas and some scattered thoughts I had about them. I do wonder if this would continue on to become a trend, because undoubtedly having a male lead who is not like in his most physically perfect form at the start of the drama allows for the hero's emotional side to be explored more. And I can see writers really enjoying this plot device for that purpose. Okay, I think that's all. I have a drama Discord now. The invite is below. See you in the next video.